My name is Layla Monroe. I'm 28 now. But that day, it's etched into me like a scar. The scent of rain still takes me back. The driveway was slick, cold. I remember the rustle of leaves overhead. And then, nothing. My legs stopped working. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. And there he was, Ethan Harris, my brother, standing over me laughing. Not confused, not worried. Laughing. Then came my Greg Monroe's voice, sharp and hollow. Walk it off. Stop being a baby. And my Diane Monroe, clutching party balloons, whispering like I'd ruined everything. Why today, Layla? Why Ethan Harris's birthday? They didn't know. They couldn't know. That moment would unravel everything. Have you ever been hurt, and the people who should protect you just looked away? Pretended it wasn't real? What if your pain made them uncomfortable, so they chose silence over love? This is the story of how my family's betrayal didn't just break me, it exposed them. From the outside, our life looked like a magazine spread. A split-level ranch in Pennsylvania. My dad, Greg Monroe, a polished financial advisor. My mom, a wellness coach with a perfect smile. Ethan and I, straight-A students at the local charter school. But inside, it was like walking barefoot on glass. Greg Monroe was 6'2" and emotionally bulletproof. Raised by a military Greg Monroe who believed tears were weakness. He passed that legacy down like a family heirloom. Layla, toughen up. That was his anthem. Scraped knees. You'll live. Heartbreak? Get over it. Fever? Drink water. Pain wasn't something we treated. It was something we ignored. And Ethan? He soaked it all in. Carefree. Indifferent. Sometimes. Cruel. He didn't just mirror Dad. He amplified him. Diane tried to be the buffer, but she was always nervous, always calculating. Her loyalty wasn't to truth, it was to peace. And peace meant pretending. If I cried, she'd flinch. If I spoke up, she'd whisper, "Not now." If I needed her, she'd vanish behind a curtain of fear. I learned early, my pain was inconvenient, so I buried it. Until that day on the driveway. Until my legs gave out, until Ethan laughed, and my parents turned their backs. That was the moment I stopped being their daughter, and started being my own protector. Because sometimes healing doesn't come from the people who hurt you. It comes from the fire they lit inside you. And mine, it's still burning. The scent of rain still reminds me of that day. Damp pavement, leaves rustling in the wind. I was 7. Ethan Harris was 10. He shoved me off my bike, hard. My wrist snapped. I screamed. He smirked. And when I told our parents, he said I fell. Because I was clumsy. They believed him. No hesitation, no questions. Just a lecture from Greg Monroe about being more careful. Diane Monroe, worried about the hospital bill. Not once did they ask if Ethan Harris was lying. Have you ever been hurt? And the people who should protect you made you feel like the villain. Ethan Harris was the golden boy. Athletic, charming, untouchable. He knew how to play the game, smile for the parents, hide the cruelty. And me? I was the contrast. Sensitive, quiet, always blamed, always doubted. Diane would say, "Your brother would never complain about something like that." Her words cut deeper than any bruise, and it didn't stop. When I was 12, Ethan locked me in the basement during a thunderstorm. He knew I was terrified of the dark. I screamed until my voice cracked. When I finally escaped and told our parents, they said I was making it up. "You're just being dramatic," Diane whispered. Greg didn't even look up from his laptop. At 16, I poured my heart into a science project. Stayed up for weeks. Ethan destroyed it the night before it was due. I cried. I begged them to believe me. Greg said, "You should have planned better." Diane just sighed and walked away. Have you ever felt invisible? In your own home? I learned to disappear, to shrink, to bury the pain so deep it stopped feeling real. At 18, I packed my bags and left for college in another state. No goodbye, just silence. I built a life, became a teacher, found friends who saw me, who listened, who didn't flinch when I cried. I started therapy, dug through the wreckage of my childhood, tried to make sense of it. But family ties, they don't snap clean. They fray, they tangle, they haunt. And even now, when I walk past a split-level ranch with a perfect lawn, I feel it. That ache, that memory, that question. What happens when the people who raised you never really saw you? Because healing doesn't always come from forgiveness. Sometimes, it comes from finally telling the truth. The scent of grilled meat hangs in the air. Laughter ripples across the backyard. The pool deck gleams under the late sun. Freshly built, pristine. But Layla Monroe stands at the edge of it all, detached. Her fingers twitch at her sides. Her breath catches as she watches Ethan Harris, her brother, hold court among his friends, all swagger and charm. He doesn't glance her way, not once. "Wonderful, and please dress nicely," Diane Monroe had said. "You know how important appearances are to your Greg Monroe." That line still echoes. Layla had worn jeans, soft cotton, no makeup. Her rebellion was quiet, but deliberate. She had planned it all. Stay for 2 hours. Smile. Hand Ethan a card with cash. Leave. Simple. But nothing about this family was ever simple. The grass rustles beneath her feet. A breeze carries the scent of rain from the morning. She watches Ethan laugh, loud, careless. And then, a shadow moves behind him. From the house, slow, intentional. Layla's heart stutters. She knows that walk. She knows that face. But something's different. The figure steps into the light. And what Layla sees isn't just a person. It's a truth. One that could unravel everything. What happens when the lies you've buried start digging their way out? 6 months. That's how long it had been since Layla last saw them. She'd built distance like armor, therapy, teaching, friends who didn't flinch when she cried. But guilt, it's sticky. It clings. So when Diane called, voice tight with urgency, Layla said yes, against her better judgment. It would mean so much to your brother, Diane had insisted. Layla knew better. Ethan didn't care. He never had. She remembered the basement, the thunderstorm, the locked door, her screams. Greg Monroe never looked up from his laptop. "You're just being dramatic," Diane had whispered. She remembered the science project. Weeks of work. Ethan destroyed it. Greg said, "You should have planned better." Diane sighed and walked away. Invisible. That's what Layla had been. In her own home. So she left. No goodbye. Just silence. But family doesn't fade. It lingers. It waits. And sometimes, it strikes when you least expect it. Layla had walked into that backyard hoping for peace. Instead, she walked into a storm. The party was loud. Ethan's friends were louder. Entitled. Obnoxious. Just like him. Layla kept her distance. She smiled. She nodded. She counted the minutes. But then, the shadow, the figure, the moment, and what followed changed everything. Because that birthday party was the last time Layla Monroe ever walked without assistance. The cruelty she'd endured for years finally crossed a line. And now, she's ready to tell the truth. Not for them, not for forgiveness, but for herself. Because healing doesn't come from pretending. It comes from finally being seen. And Layla Monroe is done disappearing. The car door creaked open into a heavy silence. The scent of stale smoke clung to the air, mixed with spilled drinks and something else, something sour. Layla Monroe stepped out, her pulse quickening. The driveway was packed with luxury cars, SUVs, sports models, polished chrome flashing in the sun. She spotted the red Corvette. Tyler's. Her brother Ethan's best friend. The same Tyler who used to laugh while Ethan locked her in the basement. Her fingers tightened around her overnight bag. She wasn't staying here. Not in that house. Not in that room. She had booked a hotel. A small act of defiance, but it mattered. She'd chosen her outfit carefully. Dark jeans, a soft blue blouse, flats. Just enough to pass her Greg Monroe's silent judgment, but still feel like herself. She'd rehearsed this moment. 2 hours of driving, repeating her therapist's words like a mantra. You're an adult now. You can leave. Deep breaths, visualization, boundaries. But therapy couldn't prepare her for what was coming. No breathing technique could stop what would happen next. She timed her arrival for 2 p.m. Sharp, right when the party officially began. That way, she could slip into the crowd, avoid the spotlight, avoid Ethan, avoid Diane's nervous glances. But as she stepped onto the porch, Diane greeted her with an air kiss and a tight smile. Her eyes scanned Layla's outfit. Approval. Barely. Layla, you made it. Everyone's out back. Ethan just opened his presents. Of course, they hadn't waited. They never did. Layla walked through the house slowly. The walls still held the same framed photos. Ethan's football trophies, Greg's awards, Diane's wellness certificates. Not one photo of her. Not one. The scent of rain drifted in through the open windows. Leaves rustled outside, but inside, it was still. Too still. She stepped into the backyard. Laughter. Loud. Careless. Ethan's voice rang out above the rest. He was surrounded. Tyler beside him, drinks in hand. Layla kept her distance. She smiled. She nodded. She counted the minutes. But then, a shadow moved behind Ethan. From the house. Slow. Intentional. Layla's heart stuttered. She knew that walk. She knew that face. But something was off. The figure stepped into the light, and what Layla saw wasn't just a person. It was a truth, one that could unravel everything. She opened her mouth to speak, to confront, but before the words could leave her lips, the lights went out. Darkness, then crash, glass, screams, a thud, and silence. Who moved first? Who screamed? Who fell? Layla couldn't see, but she felt it. The shift, the danger, the betrayal. And in that moment, she knew. This wasn't just a party. It was a reckoning. The scent of rain still clung to the air, mixing with smoke from the grill and the sharp tang of beer. Layla Monroe stepped into the backyard, her sandals pressing into the damp driveway. Laughter erupted from the pool deck. Loud, careless, like nothing had ever gone wrong. But everything had. She scanned the crowd, her heart thudding. Her Diane Monroe's voice trailed behind her, soft and rehearsed. Your Greg Monroe's having the jet ski delivered next week. Layla nodded, swallowing the bitterness. 6 months ago, for her 30th, they'd sent a gift card. No party, no jet ski, just silence. She placed her envelope, $200, neatly folded, on the table. It looked small next to the designer boxes and golf clubs. Her fingers lingered on the edge of the card. Then she turned and followed Diane toward the backyard. The pool glistened under the gray sky. About 30 people lounged around it, mostly men in their 30s, beers in hand, voices raised. Greg Monroe stood at the grill, flipping steaks like he was auditioning for a commercial. His posture was perfect. His smile, practiced. Layla watched him for a moment. He hadn't looked at her once. Then she saw Ethan Harris. He was near the pool, surrounded by his usual crew, beer in one hand, gesturing wildly with the other. His voice carried, loud, confident, just a little too polished. He'd gained weight, his once athletic frame now softened by years of indulgence, but his swagger hadn't changed, not one bit. He spotted her, broke away from the group, walked toward her with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Little sis," he said, arms wide, "you decided to grace us with your presence after all." His tone was light, his words casual. But the look in his eyes, it wasn't welcome. It wasn't warmth. It was something colder, something sharper. Layla smiled, just enough to be polite. "Wouldn't miss it," she said, her voice steady. But inside, she was unraveling. The scent of chlorine drifted past. A leaf rustled near her foot. Somewhere behind her, Diane laughed, too loudly. Layla turned slightly, catching Ethan's smirk as he rejoined his friends. One of them slapped his back. Another handed him a fresh beer. She stood still, watching, waiting, and then she saw it. A shadow moved behind Ethan, slow, intentional. Layla's breath caught. She knew that walk, she knew that face, but something was wrong. The figure stepped into the light, and what Layla saw wasn't just a person. It was a truth, one that could unravel everything. She opened her mouth to speak, to confront, but before the words could leave her lips, the lights went out. Darkness, then crash, glass, screams, a thud, and silence. Who moved first? Who screamed? Who fell? Layla couldn't see, but she felt it. The shift, the danger, the betrayal, and in that moment, she knew. This wasn't just a party, it was a reckoning. The room feels tense, even beneath the fake smiles. I try to keep my face neutral, but my hands tremble just slightly. As I step back, trying to quiet the swirling storm inside, my eyes catch something. The trembling of my hand, the faint flicker of doubt in my mind. Then, out of the shadows, Ethan smirks, pulling out a battered photo, tattered edges, crinkled from years hidden away. It's our family, torn but held together by string and secrets. His voice cuts through the quiet, slow but sinister. "You didn't know, huh?" The weight of what he reveals hits like a punch. All those moments I thought were simple betrayals? Turns out they were woven into something darker. I stare at the picture, realization sinking in. Family loyalty, the sacred bond I clung to, was just an illusion. Could the truth be plainer? That the family I fought for might have been built on a lie? As I hear the rain outside, cold and relentless, I wonder, am I just chasing ghosts? Or am I finally ready to face what's real? This isn't just about healing anymore. It's about confronting the tangled web of truths and lies that define us. And maybe, just maybe, finding my way out. The scent of rain on warm pavement clings to the air. Sharp, earthy, familiar. Layla Monroe grips a jagged shard of mirror, its edge biting into her palm as shadows flicker across her face in the dim garage. Her breath catches. That voice, her Diane Monroe's, trembling, pleading for forgiveness. And Ethan's stare. Blank, indifferent, like he wasn't even there. That moment carved itself into her memory. Not just pain, but clarity. The kind that burns. The kind that stays. She remembers the laughter. Too loud. Too cruel. Tyler's voice, smug and careless. We switched her shampoo with hair remover. He slaps his knee like it's the funniest thing he's ever said. Layla was 14. Her hair fell out in clumps. Hats became armor. Her parents told her to stop being dramatic. That memory, it never left. It just buried itself deeper. She starts gathering her things. Enough is enough. No family obligation is worth this kind of humiliation. But then, Ethan steps in. Leaving so soon. His words slur. His eyes drift. Drunk again. That always made him more unpredictable, more dangerous. I've got a long drive, she says, firm, but he blocks her path. Come on, sis, loosen up, one drink, for old times. She knows this game, the fake warmth, the setup, the fall. No thanks, Ethan, I need to go. His face shifts, the charm drops. Still the same uptight Layla. Some things never change. She walks away, toward the sliding glass door. Just grab her purse, say goodbye, escape. But something's off. The pool deck, new, polished. She steps onto the boards. They're slick. Too slick. Her flats slide. She looks down. A sheen. Subtle. Intentional. She knows, but it's too late. Her foot slips. Her body twists. The world tilts. And in that split second, she sees Ethan watching. Not surprised, not concerned. Just watching. The fall isn't just physical. It's symbolic. A collapse of trust, of illusion, of everything she thought family meant. Rain begins to fall outside. Soft. Relentless. Like it's washing away the lies. Layla lies there, breath shallow, pain blooming. But her mind is clear. This isn't just about escape anymore. It's about truth. About facing the cruelty masked as love. About reclaiming her story. Because sometimes, healing starts with the fall. The boards. You are embarrassing yourself. I cannot get up. I was crying now. Tears of pain and fear streaming down my face. Please call an ambulance. I think I am really hurt. By this point, a small crowd had gathered around me. I could see curiosity and discomfort on their faces, but no one was moving to help. They were taking their cues from Ethan Harris, assuming this was just another family drama playing out for their entertainment. My Greg Monroe pushed through the onlookers, his face set in a mask of irritation. "What is going on here, Layla Monroe? Why are you on the ground?" "Dad," I sobbed, relief washing over me. Surely my Greg Monroe would take this seriously. I slipped and fell. I hit my back on the pool ledge. I cannot feel my legs. I need to go to the hospital. I expected concern, urgency, immediate action. What I got instead was a dismissive scoff. "For God's sake, Layla Monroe, the deck is perfectly safe. I just had it installed by professionals." He gestured impatiently. "Walk it off. Stop being a baby. You're making a scene at your brother's party." The words hit me like a physical blow. Even now, even when I was literally unable to move, my pain was being dismissed, my experience invalidated. "Douglas, maybe we should help her up," my Diane Monroe suggested, appearing at his side. But her concern was not for my well-being. People are watching. "I cannot get up," I repeated, my voice rising with desperation. "I need an ambulance. Please, Mom, Dad, I am begging you. Something is seriously wrong." My Diane Monroe knelt beside me, her voice lowered to an angry whisper. "Layla Monroe, that is enough. You have always been jealous of your brother's attention, but this is taking things too far. You are ruining his birthday party with this performance." I could not believe what I was hearing. The pain in my back was intensifying, radiating outward in waves that made it difficult to concentrate. My head was throbbing where it had struck the driveway, and I was starting to feel nauseated. "I think I am going to be sick," I moaned, turning my head to the side. "She is probably drunk," I heard Ethan Harris tell someone. Classic Layla Monroe cannot handle her alcohol. I had not had a single drink all day, but facts had never mattered in my family's narrative about me. The sun beating down on my face was making the nausea worse. I was sweating profusely, and a strange tingling sensation had started in my fingertips. I knew these were bad signs, possibly indicators of shock or internal bleeding. "Please," I whispered, no longer having the energy to shout. "I need help." My Greg Monroe had walked away, returning to the grill as if nothing was happening. My Diane Monroe was making excuses to the guests, telling them I had always been prone to episodes and that they should continue enjoying the party. Ethan Harris had lost interest entirely, moving back to his group of friends who were now loudly discussing plans to take the new jet ski out the following weekend. I was alone, immobile in agony, surrounded by people who were choosing to ignore my suffering. The betrayal cut deeper than any physical pain ever could. Then, from the edge of my fading consciousness, I heard a new voice. Firm, authoritative, female. "Excuse me, I am a nurse. Let me through, please." The crowd parted, and a woman I did not recognize knelt beside me. She had kind eyes and capable hands that immediately went to my wrist, checking my pulse. "Hi there, I am Rachel. I work in the ER at Pennsylvania General. Can you tell me your name?" Layla Monroe, I managed to say through chattering teeth. I was cold now despite the summer heat. Okay, Layla Monroe. I need you to stay very still. Can you tell me what happened? I explained about the fall, the impact with the pool edge, and the immediate loss of sensation in my legs. Rachel's expression remained neutral, but I could see concern in her eyes. She leaned closer and spoke quietly. I'm going to check a few things, but I do not want you to move at all. Okay. The scent of chlorine clung to the air, mixing with the sharp tang of summer barbecue smoke. Layla Monroe lay motionless on the driveway, her breath shallow, her fingers numb. Rachel, the ER nurse who had appeared like a lifeline, was now pressing gently along Layla's legs, her voice calm but urgent. Can you feel this? Layla blinked. Her lips barely moved. No. Try wiggling your toes. Silence. Nothing. Rachel's tone shifted. I'm calling an ambulance. From behind, Diane Monroe's voice cut through the tension. Nervous, dismissive. She doesn't need an ambulance. She just needs to get up and stop making a fuss. Rachel didn't flinch. Her eyes locked onto Diane's. Ma'am, your daughter shows signs of a spinal cord injury. If she's moved, she could lose mobility permanently. Diane's face twitched. A flicker of something, fear, guilt, passed through her expression. Spinal cord injury? That's impossible. She just slipped. Rachel didn't back down. Falls are one of the most common causes, and from what I saw, she hit the edge hard. The rustle of leaves overhead felt louder now. Time slowed. Layla's world narrowed to Rachel's voice and the distant sound of sirens. Greg Monroe approached, his face tight with confusion. What's all this about an ambulance? Rachel raised a hand, still on the phone. Sir, your daughter may have suffered a serious spinal injury. Paramedics will be here in 10 minutes. She must not be moved. Greg's face paled. The usual indifference cracked. For once, he wasn't brushing it off. This isn't a joke? He asked, scanning the yard for someone to blame. Layla's voice was barely audible. The deck was slippery, like it had oil or something. Greg's jaw clenched. That's ridiculous. I just had it sealed yesterday. It shouldn't be slippery. But the truth hung heavy in the air. No one had checked. No one had cared. Until now. And just as the sirens grew louder, a voice echoed from the hallway behind the house. Strained. Frantic. Layla. It was Ethan Harris, the brother who'd mocked her, ignored her, left her in pain. Now his voice cracked through the silence. What had he seen? What did he know? Layla's heart pounded. Her body couldn't move, but her mind raced. Was this the moment everything unraveled? Or was it the beginning of something else? Something darker? The driveway shimmered under the heat. Rachel's hand stayed firm on Layla's wrist. And somewhere inside, Layla knew. This wasn't just about a fall. It was about everything that had led to it. The secrets, the silence, the betrayal, and the one truth that refused to stay buried. Layla Monroe's world tilted. Pain shot up her spine, crashing like thunder. Her vision blurred, colors bleeding together. As she lay on the ground, her senses sharpened, not to the scene around her, but to a faint scent of deck oil, lingering like a ghost. Suddenly, a flashback tore through her mind. An endless summer, 10 years old, barefoot on weathered boards. Her Diane Monroe's nervous laugh echoing. Ethan Harris's heavy shove, the sharp scrape of her knees scraping grit into her skin. Eleanor's eyes flickered with guilt long before she looked away. Betrayal. No. It's evolved. It's sharper now, deeper. That old wound reopened, vivid as ever. The cruel family secrets she buried beneath layers of denial, exposed in an instant. Her family's cruelty painted in stark, brutal hues. Could she have known? Is this what justice looks like? Every memory, every secret, surging like a flood. The sharp scent of rain, leaf rustling outside, clocking her heartbeat, steady but frantic. Rachel's voice brings her back, a steady anchor. "Hold on," she whispers softly. But Layla's mind keeps racing. What just happened? What's coming next? The driveway shimmering beneath the sun, her body frozen. This isn't just about a fall. It's about everything. Secrets buried alive, betrayal that scars more than any fall. And somewhere deep inside, she understands. This moment isn't the end. It's the start of something darker, something that will change everything. The scent of rain creeping into the air, mixed with the sharp tang of gasoline, pulls us instantly back. Layla's small hands, trembling, clutch her Diane Monroe's fragile fingers, those fleeting moments when safety felt just out of reach. The kitchen's distant clang echoes, background noise to a silence thick with unspoken fears. Her Diane Monroe's touch is gentle, yet hesitant, caught between love and a silent war she can't escape. That fragile snapshot lingers, flickering in her mind like a ghost, illuminating wounds too deep to see but impossible to ignore. And then, the darkness inside her flares to life. Her pain, betrayal, the secrets buried beneath years of silence. The heavy weight of family this, family that. It all crashes, the betrayal, the lies, the heartbreak, coming at her like a tidal wave. It feels as if her past and present are blurring, her senses alive to every sharp detail, the rustle of leaves outside, the distant hum of life going on. Rachel's voice cuts through, to ground, to remind her she's not alone. But her thoughts race. What just happened? What does this mean? This isn't just about falling on the wet deck. No, this is about everything left unspoken, everything buried, cracking open in a moment of chaos. The driveway shimmers beneath the exhausted sun, her body frozen in fear. Her journey isn't over. Not yet. This is just the beginning of uncovering truths shaped by betrayal, pain, and, maybe, the chance for real justice. And deep down, Layla feels it, something darker lurking, waiting to be uncovered. A storm is brewing, one that might finally tear down the walls she's built to survive. Layla Monroe's world splits in two when Ethan Harris finally admits the truth. He says he just wanted to scare her, a prank that spiraled out of control. The air thickens, heavy with unspoken lies. Rachel's calm voice cuts through the chaos, but her words hide a simmering anger beneath that level tone. Ethan Harris, standing with his hands shoved deep in his pockets, looks anywhere but at her. His face is filled with regret, or maybe just confusion. "I didn't think she'd get hurt," he mumbles, eyes avoiding hers. Sarah and the paramedics exchange glances. The tension crackles in the silence. "Sir, is that accurate? Did you intentionally make the deck slippery?" Ethan Harris shifts uncomfortably. "It was just a joke. I meant it as a prank. I didn't think she'd actually fall," he says, voice weak. The paramedics get to work fast. Mike kneels examining the deck, snapping photos, collecting samples, details that could reveal everything. Meanwhile, the medical team carefully starts to immobilize Layla Monroe. The cold feel of the spinal collar presses against her neck, sharp and unyielding. 1, 2, 3. Sarah guides, her voice steady amid the chaos. The movement sends a jolt of pain through Layla Monroe's body, and she can't hold back a cry. "You're hurting her," her voice trembling with rage and fear. Sarah's face softens with concern. "We're doing our best. We'll get you pain relief as soon as we can." Strapped onto the backboard, she feels every jolt, every brush of cold metal. Her mind races. Was it just a prank? Or something darker? The ambulance hums, a relentless reminder that life can pivot on a single moment. Her Diane Monroe's trembling voice breaks through the haze, asking if she'll be okay. But Sarah doesn't sugarcoat it. Signs point to a serious injury. We need to get her to a hospital now, to a trauma center, if she's going to have a real shot at coming back from this. In that moment, everything changes. What starts as a joke could shatter a family, reveal secrets buried alive. And as the rain scent lingers outside, Layla feels it. An undeniable truth that this isn't over. Not by a long shot. As I finally stand on the brink of breaking, tears ready to spill, I see him, Ethan, clutching their old family photo like it's a secret treasure. My heart pounds, and this was supposed to be my moment to bleed it all out, to say what's been buried deep inside. But then he steps closer, voice cold and flat, revealing his true game. "Gotcha," he whispers, camera in hand. The betrayal hits like a punch to the gut. The safe space I fought so hard for? Shattered. His indifferent stare masks something darker, scheming behind that casual mask. The room thickens with silence, heavy with secrets. My chest tightens. I thought I knew them. I thought I was finally safe enough to be vulnerable. Instead, I've just been watched, recorded, lied to. That familiar trust? Eroded. What now? Is anything real? Or is my story just another game to him? The ache of betrayal settles deep, as cold and raw as the rain outside the window, fogging the glass. I feel the fragile crack in my resolve, trembling on the edge of truth and despair. Layla Munro lay staring at the ceiling tiles, each square a silent witness to her unraveling. The sterile scent of hospital air mixed with the rain's dampness outside. Her mind drifted, past Ethan Harris's grin at his birthday party, how Eleanor's eyes darted away whenever she caught her glance, and the cold drink Ethan Harris had pressed into her hands. That long-forgotten insistence. Her stomach knots with a familiar ache. Was it innocence or manipulation? Carlos enters, not with bandages or soothing words, but with a worn police folder. "Layla," he says softly, "there's something you need to see. The fall? It wasn't an accident." Silence crashes over her, heavy, like the storm outside. The truth's awakening is no gentle wake-up call. It's a tidal wave, ready to drown her in guilt, rage, and questions that won't let her go. The hospital lights buzz faintly overhead. Layla Munro lies motionless, her body wrapped in sterile sheets, her mind tangled in memories that won't let go. Rain taps the window like a whisper from the past. The scent of antiseptic mixes with the damp air, and somewhere down the hall, a nurse laughs. Too loud, too distant. Layla's fingers twitch as she reaches for the tablet beside her bed. On the screen, a ghostly image of her spine glows. Dr. Martinez's voice cuts through the haze. "The impact fractured 2 vertebrae, compressed your spinal cord." Layla stares at the jagged lines. Her breath catches. "We performed emergency surgery, removed bone fragments, stabilized your spine with rods and screws." She swallows hard. "Will I walk again?" A pause. Heavy, unforgiving. "Spinal cord injuries are complex," Dr. Martinez says. "Yours is incomplete. That's hopeful." Hope? That word feels foreign now, like a language she used to speak fluently. "Incomplete means the cord wasn't fully severed," the doctor continues. "Some patients regain mobility, others don't." Layla's voice cracks. "So I might be paralyzed forever?" Dr. Martinez doesn't flinch. "I wouldn't use the word forever. But yes, you're experiencing paraplegia. We'll do everything we can, but you should prepare for long-term challenges." The words land like bricks. Layla's world, once filled with morning jogs, coffee runs, and quiet moments of solitude, is now reduced to sterile walls and whispered possibilities. She had walked into Ethan's birthday party a healthy 28-year-old. She left it broken, not just physically, emotionally, spiritually, all because of a prank, a joke, a moment her family brushed off as harmless. But it wasn't harmless. It was betrayal. And now, the consequences are stitched into her spine. Dr. Martinez's tone shifts. "There's something else. The circumstances of your injury. They've prompted an investigation." Layla's heart skips. "There are 2 officers waiting to speak with you." She closes her eyes. The rain outside grows louder. Or maybe it's the storm inside her. She remembers Ethan's smirk, Diane's nervous glances, that drink, cold, insistent, the way Eleanor looked away when Layla collapsed. Was it all planned? Was she ever safe? The photo Ethan clutched, the camera, the whisper. Gotcha. Her chest tightens. This wasn't just a prank. It was a setup. And now, the truth is clawing its way to the surface. Layla's fingers curl around the blanket. Her body may be broken, but her spirit, it's waking up, and it's angry. She won't be silent. Not anymore. Outside, the rain keeps falling. Inside, Layla prepares to speak. But when the door creaks open again, it's not the officers. It's Diane, eyes wide, hands trembling. Layla, we need to talk. Layla stares. Is this the moment? Or just another lie? She doesn't know yet, but she's ready to find out. The porch was blistering under the Pennsylvania sun. I gripped the cold chain of the swing, its creak slicing through the silence. The scent of gasoline lingered, sharp, sour, unforgettable. Ethan's voice echoed in my head, that fake apology, the grin that never reached his eyes. It was just a joke, he'd said, pouring oil across the deck like it was some kind of game. But it wasn't a game. My back hit the wood with a crack I still hear in my sleep. Pain surged. My legs wouldn't move. And when I screamed, Diane told me to stop being dramatic, said I was ruining Ethan's party. I remember lying there, breath shallow, staring up at the sky, wondering if this was it. Dr. Martinez's voice pulled me back. Your brother admitted to pouring the oil. Her tone was steady, but her eyes flickered. And there's concern about the delay in getting you medical attention. I nodded slowly. They didn't believe me. They told me to walk it off. The words tasted bitter. Dr. Martinez's jaw tightened. In spinal cord injuries, every minute matters. Immediate care can change everything. So, if they'd called an ambulance right away, I couldn't finish the sentence. She hesitated. It's impossible to say for sure, but yes, the prognosis might have been better. I felt something break inside, not just my body, something deeper. Tears came fast, not just from pain, but from betrayal. Carlos adjusted my blanket, his hands gentle. You're safe now, he whispered, but I wasn't sure I believed that. Dr. Martinez asked if I was ready to speak with the police. I didn't hesitate. Yes, I want them to know what happened. 2 officers entered, both women. That detail mattered. It made me feel less exposed. Detective Sullivan spoke first. We understand this is difficult, but we need to ask about yesterday. Yesterday. The word felt like a wound. I looked at them, then down at my legs. Still, silent. And I began to speak. The truth wasn't just clawing its way out, it was roaring. The sterile hum of the interrogation room fades into a tense silence. Eleanor steps in unexpectedly, clutching a worn photo album. Her hands tremble, not from nerves but from the weight of what she's about to reveal. She places the album on the table, flipping it open to a page marked with a torn ribbon. Inside is a childhood photo of Layla Monroe. Layla, legs in casts, a smile stretched tight and forced. This wasn't the first time, Eleanor whispers, her voice cracking like brittle glass. The air thickens. Layla's breath catches. The story fractures because in that quiet moment, the truth crashes through. The fall, the injury, wasn't a freak accident. It was part of a pattern. The pain, the neglect, the betrayal, it was all woven into the fabric of their family history. Questions swirl in the mind. How many times before? How often did innocence get shattered behind closed doors? The spotlight shifts from the past, shining on the silence that protected it, to the present, where the truth now refuses to be buried. Layla's eyes tighten. The room seems to shrink, the scent of rain outside faint in the background. Maybe it's the storm in her mind, or the storm outside that mirrors her internal chaos. But one thing is certain, what she thought was just a fall, just an accident, was only the surface. Beneath it, deeper darkness lurked, a story of resilience, of fighting free of shadows. And now, with trembling hope, she wonders, will justice finally crack the silence? Or will the cracks swallow everything whole again? Staring at the cold, sterile hospital ceiling, I felt the weight of silence pressing down. My body was aching, every nerve raw with pain. Amid the stillness, a soft voice crackled through my phone. Ethan Harris's voice, but not just any voice. It was a recording. He told me he was the one pulling the strings behind everything. Family betrayal, the injuries, the fractures I'd never even seen coming. His laugh echoed distantly, twisted and cruel, as if gloating from another world. My tears welled up, not just from the physical pain, but the betrayal running deeper than I ever knew. The man I trusted, the brother I cared for, he was the mastermind. How could I have missed it? The story had flipped. The villain wasn't who I thought. It was darker, more tangled, like a web I couldn't escape. My journey for justice just took a hard, brutal turn. Are some monsters hiding behind familiar faces? Or worse, are they the ones closest to us? The rain outside whispers secrets, and the rustle of leaves reminds me. Chaos isn't always loud. Sometimes it's silent and hidden, waiting in shadows. How do you rebuild from that? When the one person you thought was on your side weaves the ultimate betrayal, what's left? I wonder, can healing really start when the wound runs so deep? Or are some scars forever etched in the soul? Just when I thought I had clarity, the truth shattered everything. And now, I have no choice but to face what lies beneath, no matter how dark it gets. In the quiet pause after the storm, Layla Monroe's world felt like it was crumbling apart. She sat in a stark hospital room, rain tapping softly against the window, the scent of wet earth faint in the air. It was almost peaceful, until she noticed him. Ethan Harris, her brother, loitering outside her door, eyes distant and careless. But it wasn't Ethan who stepped forward. It was her mom, Diane, looking worn, eyes trembling. She clutched a faded family photo, its edges frayed, hidden scars from years buried deep. Her voice barely above a whisper, Diane finally admitted the devastating truth. She'd kept secrets about Greg Monroe's real identity, an old betrayal, long hidden beneath their fractured family. Suddenly, everything shifted. The neglect, the pain, everything that seemed random suddenly made sense. The quiet here wasn't relief, it was revelation. Justice and healing aren't just about fixing what's broken, they're about facing the darkness we'd rather ignore. And Layla wonders, can she really heal from a wound this deep? Or will the shadows always linger, waiting for their moment to reappear? Layla Monroe stared at the hospital ceiling, each tile a silent witness to the chaos raging inside her. The rain outside tapped softly against the window, mixing with the distant echo of thunder. Her heart pounded, fast and reckless. It was a storm she couldn't see but felt everywhere. Betrayal, pain, the weight of secrets she never knew she carried. The flowers of hope wilted fast. Now, only the scent of wet earth lingered, heavy and damp. Across the room, her brother Ethan drifted outside her door, eyes unfocused, while her mom, Diane, looked worn, tired from fighting her own ghosts. She clutched an old, frayed photograph and, in a trembling voice, finally whispered the truth she'd shielded for years. Greg Monroe wasn't who they'd thought. Secrets long buried, lies thick as fog, unraveled in that moment. Everything, the neglect, the silence, they all made sense now. The silence wasn't relief, it was revelation. Justice, healing. Layla wondered if she'd ever find peace or if these scars ran too deep. Just as she prepared to face the darkness, the door creaked open. Her pulse leapt. Was it Ethan or someone else? The air thickened with tension. Layla's fingers curled around the hospital blanket, knuckles white. A voice, familiar yet uncertain, called her name, breaking the fragile silence. Time stretched, waiting for the next twist, the next breathless moment. Could she really take the fight to court? Embrace the pain and make it meaningful? Or would digging up the past only deepen the wounds? Every nerve in her body screamed for answers, but for now, it was all about that one uncertain step forward, into the shadows, into the truth. The scent of rain clung to the air as Layla Monroe wheeled herself down the polished hallway of the rehab center. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, too bright, too sterile. Her fingers trembled slightly on the rubber grips, still learning this new rhythm of movement. 2 weeks ago, she was in acute care, barely conscious, barely herself. Now, she was here, in a place built for rebuilding. But what do you rebuild when the damage isn't just physical? David, her physical therapist, greeted her with that same steady optimism. We work with what's left, and make it strong. His voice was calm, but firm. Layla nodded, though inside she wasn't sure what was left. Her body felt foreign, her past fractured, her future undefined. Each morning began with 2 hours of pushing limits. Muscles that still responded were coaxed into motion. Transfer drills, bed to chair to bed, became a ritual. The scent of antiseptic mixed with the rustle of leaves outside the window. Fall was coming. She could feel it, even if she couldn't walk through it. Afternoons were for occupational therapy. Layla learned how to dress herself, how to cook from a seated position. The stove's heat felt different now, more distant, more deliberate. Every movement had to be planned. Nothing was automatic anymore. In group sessions, she met others, some veterans of this life, others still raw. One night during dinner, Tara sat beside her. Her braces clinked softly as she settled in. "It gets easier," Tara said, voice low. "Not the physical stuff. That's just mechanics. I mean the emotional part. Right now, it feels like your injury is your whole story. But it won't be. It'll just be a chapter." Layla stared at her plate. The mashed potatoes were cold. Her appetite had vanished weeks ago. But Tara's words lingered. Could this pain really shrink into something manageable? Could she ever feel whole again? Outside, the wind picked up. Leaves scraped across the driveway. Somewhere in the distance, a car door slammed. Layla flinched. Her mind flashed back, Ethan's laughter, sharp and careless. Diane's silence, heavy with guilt. Greg's absence, louder than any scream. This rehab center wasn't just about muscles and motion. It was about facing the ghosts that followed her here. Every tile, every hallway, every mirror reflected not just her injury, but the betrayal that broke her long before the accident. And yet, she kept showing up. She kept moving. Because maybe healing wasn't about forgetting. Maybe it was about remembering. And choosing to rise anyway. Layla's fingers curled around the wheelchair's armrest. Her knuckles turned white. She took a breath. The air smelled like rain and resolve. "I'm not done," she whispered. And for the first time in weeks, she believed it. Layla Monroe sat in the sterile beeping chamber of the hospital, her eyes fixed on the sealed envelope trembling in her hands. No return address. Just her brother Ethan's shaky handwriting, scrawled in handwriting that couldn't hide the remorse beneath. Her fingers trembled as she broke the seal, unfolding the letter with a kind of reluctant anticipation. Inside, Ethan poured out words she never thought she'd see. Raw, apologetic, almost pleading, telling her he'd tried to visit. He explained how their mom, Diane, had forbidden it, fearing it could hurt their family's shaky legal battle. That was the first crack, the moment her mind reeled. Was Ethan really the bad guy? or another pawn caught in her Diane Monroe's desperate attempt to keep everything intact. The hospital room suddenly felt colder. The hum of machines faded as her stomach clenched. This letter was more than ink on paper. It was a mirror. For years, she believed her brother's indifference, her Diane Monroe's silence, had broken her. Yet now, maybe it wasn't that simple. Maybe family lies and fears had woven a web thicker than her wounds. Layla's gaze dropped to the sterile sheets. Outside, rain tapped softly on the window, scenting the air with damp earth and resolve. Her breath hitched, her heart pounding, every beat a question echoing through her head. Could forgiveness be more than just magic? Could truth finally have room to breathe? Her hand brushed the blankets. Her voice was a whisper, trembling but firm. "I'm not done." And for the first time in a long while, she believed it. Layla Monroe stands staring at a faded family photo, sunlight filtering through the split-level ranch's blinds. Her hand trembles, fingers pressing against the glossy frame as if willing the past to stay put. The scent of rain hangs in the air, wet earth and unspoken truths. Suddenly, the door creaks open. Ethan Harris walks in, uninvited, carrying a crumpled envelope. His face, usually carefree, flickers with something darker, guilt buried beneath indifference. He hands her the letter, eyes avoiding hers. Layla's breath catches, her heart pounding like a drum, palms damp. With trembling fingers, she unfolds it. Ethan's words spill out, apologies layered with silence, a history of betrayal she thought she understood but now begins to question. As the room's silence grows heavy, her gaze drops to the photo. The betrayal she's carried for years suddenly feels heavier, deeper. The story shifts from seeking justice to confronting the truth she's hidden in plain sight all along. She looks at Ethan. Is he truly indifferent, or is he another victim of their fractured family? The room feels thick, like the air after a storm passes. Her fingers brush the paper again, as if touching the pain she's avoided. Outside, the leaf rustle sounds like whispers. Her eyes flick back to the photo, eyes brimming, ready to confront the real story. Her voice, barely above a whisper, breaks the silence. "I'm not done." She finally believes it, that somewhere in the chaos, she might find her way to healing. And maybe, just maybe, some truths can set her free. The envelope sat on the kitchen table like a weight. 3 days passed. Rain tapped against the windows, the scent of wet leaves drifting in through the screen. Layla Monroe stared at it each morning, each night, but her hands wouldn't move. Not yet. She'd spent the past year rebuilding herself from the inside out, not just healing from the injury, but from the silence, the denial, the years of being unseen. Her therapist, Claire, had said it plainly once, voice steady. "Your family failed you. They had one job, to protect you. Instead, they caused harm, and refused to see it." Layla had nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. She'd known it was true, but hearing it out loud, it cracked something open. The golden child, Ethan Harris, her brother, carefree, untouched, always skating past consequences, while she was left holding the weight of their family's secrets. Their parents, Greg and Diane Monroe, had built their lives around appearances, smiles at church, perfect holiday cards, but behind closed doors, Layla had been the scapegoat, the one who was too sensitive, too dramatic, too much. She remembered Claire's question during one session. "Do you think you'll ever reconcile with them?" Layla had paused. "I don't know," she'd whispered. "Part of me thinks there's no coming back from this. Another part wonders, maybe the legal consequences will finally force them to see what they've done." Claire had leaned in, voice soft. "Your healing doesn't depend on them. It's something you do for yourself." And so she did. Slowly, painfully. She stitched together a new understanding of family, one built on truth, not performance. She learned what love should feel like, what safety meant, what she deserved. Then came the letter. From Ethan. Written from prison. Her fingers finally tore it open. The paper trembled in her hands. His handwriting, messy, familiar, spilled across the page. A real apology. The first she'd ever received. He wrote about therapy, about facing the person he'd been, about the harm he'd caused. No excuses, no requests, just truth. "I understand if you never want to hear from me again," he wrote. Layla's breath caught. Her heart thudded. Outside, the wind rustled the trees, whispering through the branches like ghosts of old memories. She looked up from the letter. The room was quiet, still, but something had shifted. Could this be the beginning of something real, or just another illusion? Then, an urgent knock at the door. She froze. Who would come at this hour? Her eyes flicked to the hallway. The shadows stretched long across the floor. Diane's voice trembled from the living room, trying to speak, but the knock came again, louder this time. Layla stood, the letter still in her hand. The air felt electric. Was this the moment everything changed? Or the moment everything finally came undone? She stepped toward the door and paused. Because some truths don't wait. They arrive when you least expect them, and they demand to be heard. Once I remember the smell of lemon furniture polish in my childhood home, long shadows stretching across a worn carpet. Ethan Harris's laughter echoed from the living room, carefree, sharp. Eleanor's voice, shaky and strained, begged from behind a closed door, trying to hold the chaos together. I was just 10, pressed to the wood, heart pounding, absorbing the tension like a sponge. That day, I found the letter, the one that landed silently on the table, and suddenly it was like a thunderclap in my chest. That ache, that longing to feel protected, never really came. Somewhere between then and now, I've learned that family isn't just about blood, it's about what's real, and real hurts, real hope, the scent of rain in the air, leaf rustle, those details feel like ghosts. I wonder, have you ever felt that kind of ache? That quiet where everything feels suspended? Because life keeps throwing these moments, some sharp, some soft, and you realize suddenly that everything old is making room for something new, something stronger, and maybe, just maybe, the future holds something different, something worth fighting for. The scent of rain lingers in the air. Soft, earthy, like something waiting to be remembered. Layla Monroe sits quietly in her split-level ranch in Pennsylvania, the candlelight flickering against the walls. Her wheelchair rests nearby, but tonight she's using her forearm crutches, just to feel the floor beneath her feet. Her fingers trace the edge of a photograph, worn and faded. A family, once whole, now fractured. Her body aches, but it's the silence that hurts more, the kind that settles deep, the kind that remembers. She whispers to herself, "I'm still here." But just as the words leave her lips, a knock slices through the quiet, sharp, uninvited. Her heart stutters. Diane Monroe's voice trembles from the other room, barely audible. Layla's eyes lock on the door. She doesn't move. Not yet. Because sometimes the past doesn't knock. It breaks in. 6 months ago, Layla stopped being a victim. She became a mentor. Twice a week, she returns to the rehab center where she once relearned how to brush her teeth, how to sit up, how to breathe through the pain. She meets people who are drowning in grief, just like she was, and she tells them the truth. It doesn't get easier, but you get stronger. She remembers Tara's voice, steady, real. That voice carried her through the worst nights. Now, Layla carries it forward. She's found purpose in the wreckage. And through that purpose, she met Thomas, a physical therapist with quiet eyes and steady hands. He didn't flinch at her scars. He didn't pretend not to see them. He saw her, all of her, Their friendship grew slowly, like spring thaw. Now it's something more, something fragile, something honest. With Thomas, she's learning what love feels like when it's not built on guilt or obligation, when it's not afraid of the hard parts. But the hardest part still waits. Ethan Harris, her brother, was released from prison 4 months ago. 2 years served, no apologies, just a letter, asking if they could meet. Someday, if she's ready. She hasn't answered, because healing isn't linear. It's jagged, it's quiet, it's choosing yourself, even when the world says you owe someone else your peace. Layla walks short distances now. Her legs tremble. Her body reminds her daily of what was lost. But her spirit is louder than it's ever been. Some days the pain is sharp, other days it's just a whisper. But every day she chooses to rise. And tonight, as the knock echoes again, she knows. Some doors stay closed, others open to something new. She takes a breath, steps forward, and listens. Layla Monroe stands in her quiet apartment, sunlight slicing through the blinds, casting fragile patterns on the worn hardwood. She gently runs her fingertips over a faded fabric, her Diane Monroe's shirt, soft with age, and inhales slowly. A scent of lavender, faint sweat lingering in its fibers, triggers a memory. She hears her Diane Monroe's voice crackle in her mind, trembling, nervous. Outside, distant traffic hums, a background noise that feels almost like the world moving on without her. Inside, her chest tightens as a childhood scene flickers to life. The warmth of her Diane Monroe's hesitant hug after a storm of whispered accusations, trembling hands clutching her close. Her Diane Monroe's eyes shimmer with conflicted loyalty. Shadows flicker behind them. Betrayal and love intertwined. That fragile moment, raw and unguarded, sealed itself deep inside Layla's heart, whispering of a need for truth amid silence. What does it mean to really be seen? To be loved when you're most broken? Her fingers linger on the fabric. She whispers softly, almost to herself. It's not about them anymore. Because she's learned, over the long, jagged months, that validation only comes from within. That family doesn't have to be blood to matter. Sometimes it's who shows up when life pushes you to your knees. And tonight, as the knock echoes again, sharp and uninvited, Layla knows some doors stay closed. Others open to something new. She takes a breath, steadying herself, and steps forward into the quiet unknown. Her scars, her pain, they're part of her story. Yet her spirit whispers louder than ever before. Every day she chooses to rise, and some nights that choice just feels like survival. But she's here, standing, listening, ready to see what's next. Layla Monroe stands in her dim apartment, the faint scent of rain lingering in the air. Her reflection flickers in the cracked mirror propped against the wall. Hands trembling, she clutches a crumpled piece of paper, evidence that could blow her entire world apart. Shadows dance across her face, cast by the flickering lonely bulb overhead. Breaths come in sharp, uneven rasps. Outside, footsteps echo down the hallway, closer now. Her heart pounds, loose, racing. Should she reveal the truth buried deep for years, risking everything, or stay silent, drown the ache in shadows? Her eyes linger on her reflection. What's hiding behind that face? A fragile mask or a fierce resolve? The night holds its breath. A single decision now could unravel her life or set her free. What will she choose? To confront or to hide? The next move is hers, but the stakes, higher than ever. The darkness presses closer, whispering secrets she might never escape. The silence is deafening, yet everything hangs in the balance. Underneath the dim glow of a flickering porch light, Layla Monroe stands in the quiet dusk, the cool Pennsylvania breeze whispering secrets through the branches. Her hands tremble as she clutches a worn, crumpled letter. a piece of her past she's been afraid to face. The scent of rain lingers in the air, heavy yet cleansing. Her heart pounds loud and raw. Should she finally tell the truth she's carried alone, or keep it buried, safe in shadows? In the distance, Ethan Harris leans against the worn railing, eyes distant, indifferent, a stark contrast to Layla's storm of emotion. Their Diane Monroe, Diane, watches from the doorway, her eyes rimmed with regret and uncertain loyalty. Silence stretches, thick with memories, betrayal, and unspoken pain. Layla's voice whispers, fragile but determined, "I forgive you, not for you, but for me." A single tear slips, then another, falling not from hurt, but from the weight finally lifting. The ache of betrayal starts to loosen, replaced by something unexpected: peace. That moment, silent yet loud, marks a shift. She's choosing to let go, to forge her own path through the ache. Sometimes the fiercest act of resilience comes quietly, when you decide to stand, breathe, and claim your space amid the wreckage. And tonight, Layla lets her scars be part of her story, because no matter how broken she's felt, she's still here, listening, hoping, ready for what's next.